Okimura is a rejected nerd otaku who will never give his V-card to anyone because he only likes anime girls. However, everything changes when a real-life baddie shows up to his one-man Gunner club, cosplaying as his favorite anime waifu, making him want to smash his V-card with her. Before any of this, Okimura is watching a limited edition DVD with his waifu in it, yelling and screaming like a total crackhead. Just then, a cute chick with glasses walks in and says she wants to join the club since she loves reading manga. Okimura believes she is not a real otaku and only likes Demon Slayer. He waits for her to prove him right as she walks up to his sacred figurine collection and touches the one that auto-strips when touched, revealing the character's plots. It surprises the girl for a moment, making Okimura smirk and wait for her to leave. However, she pulls an Uno reverse and says she's into hot baddies like Lily L as well and reads all those R-rated comics that boys are obsessed with. She also calls herself the biggest Lily L fan, which doesn't sit right with Okimura. But as soon as she begins fangirling over the Lily L movie he was just watching, their brain cells resonate, and they both begin yelling like cracked-out twins. After they are done, the girl tells Okimura she's into a weird kink that might turn him off, but he reassures her nothing can weird him out, as he has already yanked his crank to plastic figurines. This makes her happy, and she shows him her spicy cosplay DVD collection, explaining how she aspires to create one of her own. While Okimura can't believe his luck, she further explains how she got her confidence after visiting a cosplay event where a hot mommy told her to keep chasing her dream. This is why she wants to create a cosplay DVD with Lily L and asks Okimura to help photograph her. He thinks it over and eventually agrees, boasting how she can wear however little clothing she wants to because he's a true otaku legend who doesn't feel a thing for real girls. Hearing this, the girl is relieved and introduces herself as Ririsa. She then begins to take off her clothes, saying she wants to show him her Lily L cosplay right here and now, and Okimura's Sigma aura begins to crumble. As soon as she's done and he sees her, he begins to feel butterflies but not in his stomach and almost loses his will to live upon realizing just how real the cosplay is. His patience is tested even further when Ririsa shows him the perfect panties she chose for her perfect cosplay and the poor kinky guy finally passes out. The next day, while binge-watching another one of those ultra-rare DVDs, Okimura wonders why it feels like he is falling for an actual, breathing, 3D girl. That's when Ririsa shows up, and they end up fangirling over the episode together, which makes him realize just how happy he is to share his secret fetishes with someone, finally. However, just when he thinks he only sees her as a friend, Ririsa starts stripping again and gets dressed up in another Lily L costume inspired by a spin-off. This has all the blood leaving his brain and rushing downstairs. He tries to ignore that and agrees to take pictures of her. The photo session tests his patience too, but as soon as she gets into character, all he can think about is how cute she looks and how much she loves his waifu. However, the Lords of Plot Twists play with his heart when Ririsa begins to change into her uniform, but the zipper of her costume gets stuck. She asks Okimura for help, and when he pulls the zipper, it rips off, liberating her plot cannons. Okimura barely escapes this trap, but his good luck doesn't leave him alone as Ririsa trips and falls into his arms, and he ends up grabbing one of her soft melons while in the act of saving her. As soon as the realization hits, he flees the scene like he could outrun the allegations, while Ririsa is left behind, blushing and wondering if she's falling in love with him. The next morning, a cute, high-profile model named Mikuri joins the school, who claims to hate both manga and Okimura for some reason. Meanwhile, his walking dead body overthinks yesterday's divine events and the heavenly feel of Ririsa's soft melons against his hand as he barely makes it to the clubroom. To his surprise, Ririsa is already there, and she's just as embarrassed about it. However, she changes the topic and brings up a camera she found in the clubroom, wondering if he'd rather take her pictures with this instead. While he looks through it, she realizes she's been asking too many things from him and offers to repay him in any way that he likes. For a moment, this cultured guy wonders if he can finally use this chance to step into adulthood, only to recall how much he hates real girls. He says he likes being her unpaid photographer as he gets to enjoy Lily L's heavenly figure in flesh, which moves her to tears. She immediately starts undressing, but soon realizes she forgot to bring her costume today, which about ruins her day. Okimura suggests watching something instead, but she grabs his hand and drags him to an empty classroom nearby, suggesting that they do a photoshoot here to test the camera. He instantly wards off his sus thoughts and gets down to business, only for Ririsa to suddenly get all self-conscious without her wig and makeup. Okimura says it's probably because she's out of character and suggests that she thinks of herself as a manga schoolgirl. Once she's all prepped up, she flashes a hot pose not suitable for a younger audience, and Okimura's butterflies descend to his sausage once again, making him question why he's feeling attracted to her when she isn't even dressed up as Liliel. Just then, Ririsa drops her glasses and kneels to pick them up. However, as Okimura thirsts after the clumsy girl cliché, she stumbles and falls on his face. While the poor guy blushes, she tells him to eat up her hotcakes, only for his soul to leave his body. The next day, as Mikuri is on her way to the manga club, somebody splashes water all over her and she's forced to run away from a group of frantic fanboys to the club room. Okimura opens the door, and as soon as she sees him, she hugs him, recalling that when they used to play together years ago, she had a crush on him. But since he only had eyes for his 2D waifu, she began hating manga and fictional characters in general. Okimura doesn't get why the plot development gods are being so kind to him lately, but he shrugs it off as soon as Mikuri introduces herself and admits she hugged him because she wanted to turn him on. Okimura notices she's dripping wet from the water, so he tells her to leave her clothes to dry. This dumbass takes it literally and undresses down to her undies, even admitting that she wore a cute bra just so she could get him to clap her. The poor guy tries his best to keep his attention off of her, but she lies down on his couch with no clothes on, asking him to come join her. This king of self-control turns her down, to which she admits she was only trying to get him to call her cute. He tells her she's always been cute, ever since they were kids, which rips off her bag girl persona and turns her into a flustered mess. She immediately gets up, forgetting about her coat, and shows poor Okimura a glimpse of heaven, one that he wasn't ready for. It makes him trip and fall on top of her, but even when he tries to get up, she tells him to stop resisting and sleep with her. As Okimura becomes Lucky Mura, he takes off his coat. Yes! However, he hands it to her and tells her to cover up, reinstating that his only love is Liliel. Later, she asks if he has a crush on someone, and although Ririsa's face pops up in his mind, he says it's only Liliel, making Mikuri leave the clubroom. Later, she reminisces how he saved her from bullies once, kick-starting her lifelong crush, and swears she will never betray him. Just then, she peeks into the manga club's window and finds Ririsa in there. It boils her blood, and she runs back into the room only to find her dressed up as Liliel. Ririsa explains to her that she plans on creating a cosplay DVD and show everyone how much she loves Liliel, which Okimura is helping her with. Initially, Mikuri doesn't get what kind of pro-weeb BS this is, but as soon as she notices the sheepish look on Okimura's cultured face, she realizes this might be the easiest way to get him to simp for her. She instantly agrees to cosplay, much to Okimura's surprise, but although Ririsa suggests she cosplay Liliel's rival Miriella, she insists on doing Okimura's waifu. Ririsa doesn't resist and takes off her costume to hand it to her, only for her to feel like a flat board in the face of her plump, juicy plot cannons. Flustered, she asks Okimura if he likes Miriella, and the broken record starts yapping about how flat is justice and Miriella is the perfect love rival for Liliel. She tells him to shut up and lets Ririsa take her measurements so she can stitch her costume. The next day, Ririsa shows her the dress, and she's shocked to see how little it'll cover. But just so Ririsa doesn't steal all the spotlight, she agrees to put it on. Once they are done with the makeover, she looks at herself in the mirror and realizes this is the hottest she has looked in ages. Wondering if it'll finally book her a one-way ticket to adulthood with Okimura, she shows herself along with Ririsa. As soon as the wimp looks at their barely covered plots and sinfully hot expressions, he passes out, only to come back to life later to yap about how Mikuri makes the best Miriella and Ririsa's cosplay is as perfect as ever. Seeing how his attention switches directly to Liliel, Mikuri recalls how she always resonated with Miriella in the manga, because even though she dearly loved the protagonist, he always had eyes for Liliel. Mikuri thinks it's good enough that Okimura is at least blushing for her, but she gets greedy and uses his inner cultured person to her advantage. She flexes her hotcakes and asks what he thinks about them, only for him to blurt out that he loves them, sending her straight to heaven. Later, Ririsa suggests that they do a photoshoot together, and Okimura steels himself to act like a man with no ill intentions. However, the very first scene makes his nose bleed as it requires Ririsa to fondle Mikuri's plots, which makes her let out happy noises. When Mikuri returns the favor and touches Ririsa's juicy melons, she lets out happy noises too, which makes Okimura lose all his patience and let a bloody waterfall leak from his nose. The difference in the amount of blood pisses off Mikuri, but before she does anything about it, she trips over Ririsa and their costumes get stuck. The two beg Okimura to release them, and the simp has a hard time believing how kind the gods of luck have been to him lately. As he tries to pull them apart, their tops come off and Okimura becomes a fallen soldier after losing way too much blood. Later, as Mikuri and Okimura talk about how much of a weeb she still is, Ririsa feels jealous but stays quiet about it and tells Mikuri she'll be putting their pictures in her cosplay DVD. Mikuri says she can't do it as it'll be a breach in her modeling contract, but promises to do it again sometime before leaving. With her gone, Ririsa tells Okimura she'll be putting out her first cosplay DVD in an upcoming event, and he volunteers to help her edit the photos. That night, as they stay over at school to get the work done, a watchman overhears them and almost unlocks the door. While he does so, Okimura pushes Ririsa against a wall and tells her to stay hidden while he lets himself get caught. This delusional chick, however, only stares at his lips and wonders what it would feel like to kiss them. Luckily, the guard doesn't walk in, and they get back to working on the photos. After working for an entire week, their collection is finally ready. The day that Mikuri learns about them attending an event together, like some jealous side chick, she asks Ririsa what she feels for Okimura. The dumb girl says he's almost like a knight in shining armor for her, making her wonder if she's actually looking to clap him too. The night before the event, Ririsa overthinks this and worries about what she should wear for him. Meanwhile, Okimura panics upon realizing they'll practically be out on a date and curses his past self for spending more on freaky Lily L body pillows than updating his trash tier wardrobe. While he still looks like a fashion disaster on the day of the event, Ririsa shows up all dressed like a runway model. Okimura turns red from imagining what it would be like to take it all off, and Ririsa recalls how she needed Mikuri to help choose these clothes for her. They take the train to the venue site and realize they came way too early, so to spend some time, they head to multiple manga cafes and karaoke bars, only to realize nothing is open at this point. Okimura panics over their flunking date as Ririsa tells him her feet hurt and she needs a break. He tends to her wounds and later curses himself for being such a loser. That's when Ririsa suggests they watch a Lily LOVA instead, and the two end up fangirling over the next few hours. Later, when they reach the venue, Ririsa turns into a malfunctioning robot from anxiety and reveals she forgot to prepare covers for their DVDs. Okimura can't believe she could be this dumb and compares their sad-looking empty DVDs to their extravagant neighbors. The hot MILF introduces herself as Magino, a veteran who reassures Ririsa it's okay to mess things up. Meanwhile, her sidekick, Agino, an overbearing dude who wears the Batman logo as eyebrows, shames them for being world-class losers. As the event begins, nobody pays any attention to these socially inept weebs until a bigger weeb shows up and asks if Ririsa's cosplay has adult poses in it. The question makes Okimura's heart throb, and he worries about anyone else besides him seeing Ririsa's hotcakes. To keep other weirdos away from his sacred treasure, he starts blurting that the DVDs don't have hot poses, which wards off all their customers. Surprisingly, Ririsa herself explains she can't put out her R-rated photos because she's currently under 18, which relieves the poor guy. Either way, he still worries about them getting zero attention and asks Ririsa why she isn't wearing her cosplay like the other actors are. She says she can't do it in front of so many people, which pisses him off, and he gives her a long and annoying TED talk on how she should let her love for Lily L shine. Ririsa says other people are so much prettier than her, so the audience won't be looking at a potato like her, only for Okimura to state her cosplay is the cutest in the world. Following this, he drags her to the changing room, and while he plays bodyguard, he finds some boys trying to snap photos outside the changing rooms and tells them to quit being creeps. The guys reveal they are actually girls and tease him about being overprotective of his girlfriend, leaving him embarrassed. Meanwhile, Ririsa realizes she has forgotten a lot of stuff she needs for her makeup, including her wig cap, but the girls all around her start helping her out, moving her to tears. As she gets dressed, another baddie in an elf cosplay recognizes her from before and tells her she's glad she could finally come to her first show. She even removes her petticoat and lends it to Ririsa so she can cover up her cheeks, after which she heads out. Back at the event, Majino steals all the spotlight with her hot poses and spicy looks, while Ajino teases Okumura about being a useless photographer once again. Just then, everyone falls silent as Ririsa finally makes her appearance and Okumura forgets what he was even there for. Everyone else gets equally stunned, including Ajino, who recalls how he used to be a Lily L simp back in the day too. As a crowd of thirsty fanboys starts forming around her, Okumura gets shoved away and Ajino steps forward to help her out with her first photoshoot. Ririsa starts posing and the crowd goes wild, and even if some assume she's just as amateur for flashing such basic poses as an OG simp, Ajino knows all her poses are taken straight out of the manga itself. A pair of textbook nerds also critique her performance, but eventually decide she's refreshing since her display of the character is raw and shows off her love for it. On the other hand, while being showered with all this love, Ririsa is reminded of her mommy issues and how she was ridiculed by her own mother for having a kink for spicy outfits and hot baddies. She also realizes if it weren't for Okumura and his support, she would have never come out of the closet, something she pays tribute to by pointing her finger at him as her final pose, which makes him blush like a love-sick idiot. Later, as she returns to the changing room, she takes a few photos with all the girls who cheered on her before, and even helps Majino with her tail removal. This meet and greet suddenly turns into a free therapy session and Ririsa rants about how hard it is for her to find the right clothes for her body. If she buys a smaller size, it doesn't fit her extra large melons, and if she buys a bigger size, she looks like a sack of potatoes. The girls reassure her the dress she's wearing is gorgeous, only for her to reveal all the fashion abominations she has committed in the past. As story time comes to an end, Majino says she'll wait to see her at the Summer Comic-Con, the biggest cosplay event, and Ririsa thanks them all for their support. Later, she regroups with Okumura at the train station, but instead of praising him for being such a supportive boyfriend, she embarrasses him by yelling out the elf lady's name, hoping to return the undies she lent her. The other ladies join her too, and amid all the calls for the elf lady, a hot chick shows up and tells her to shut up about her shady side business as she works at an office nearby. She apologizes and returns the petticoat, before ranting about how she didn't even sell one DVD today. The woman listens and tells her it happened with Mayura too, the region's best cosplayer who happens to be her friend. Ririsa turns into a certified simp as she goes on about how Mayura is the one who inspired her to become a cosplayer, only to have her heart broken upon learning she quit a few months ago. Ririsa asks Okumura if he'll accompany her to the Summer Comic-Con and tells him he's the reason why she even attended today's event. She also explains how she's been feeling weird things around him, especially in her heart that starts throbbing the moment he steps close to her. Okumura thinks he's about to get the very first love confession of his life, and even considers betraying Lily L for a bit. However, Ririsa blows it up by saying it's because she loves doing cosplays with him and because he's a great photographer, which instantly pops his bubble. However, since both of them are pretty much idiots, this dumbass celebrates not having feelings for her either and assumes he got jealous because he's her photographer and nothing more. The next day, Mikuri worries about her self-proclaimed boyfriend being stolen by Ririsa as she heads to the club room, only to find Ririsa in there with her plots exposed.
Yeah, boy.
While Mikuri blushes, Ririsa returns the clothes she borrowed and thanks her for making her realize how much she loves Okumura as a friend and photographer. It doesn't surprise Mikuri as she's always known she is a lunatic and a big fat idiot, and she feels relieved to still have a chance at getting clapped by her beloved Okumura. Just then, Ririsa gets called to her class for supplementary lessons and quickly rushes out. On her way, she crashes into a smoking hot teacher who tells her to be more careful. Meanwhile, as Okumura returns to the club room, he finds Mikuri dressed up as Lily L, all flustered and stuttering about how she just wanted to see if he would hit it with her if she looked more like his waifu. Surprisingly, it works as the world-class simp begins to totally short-circuit. Mikuri uses this chance and hugs him under the pretense of being in character, and asks him to smack her peaches so she can call him daddy. It electrocutes the poor guy, but he still pulls her away from him, stating that he can't be clapping a universal waifu all by himself and betray his kindred. Just then, Ririsa walks in and catches them together, making Okumura wonder if she thinks he's cheating on her. However, this dumb fangirl slaps him away and simps after how cute Lily L looks, all while Mikuri complains about her non-existent melons. Ririsa tells her it's okay since she still has some smoking hot peaches, and while she admires them by hiking up her skirt, Okumura's soul leaves his body. The next day, he meets up with Ojino to learn more about photography and how to get better at it. Majino serves as their muse in her $1,000,000 kimono and makes Okumura feel butterflies with her spicy poses, making him wonder if she's even comfortable with him taking her photos. She reassures him that cosplayers like to show off and that they are practically friends at this point, so she's okay. Ojino, on the other hand, thanks him for letting him discover Liliel and mansplains about the 4 heavenly queens of the cosplay world. He explains that the one at the top of this chain, Mayura, suddenly retired a few months ago, which makes people wonder if Liliel is the one who will take her spot. He also says a trashy photographer, such as Okumura, always holds down a star cosplayer, which is why he's teaching him today, making Okumura finally realize that he and Ririsa are a team. The next day, he buys a bunch of rare Liliel magazines for Ririsa, who wonders if he's into sadism upon seeing all the posters. Okumura says he's just a man of culture, and Ririsa laughs, saying since she likes to self-insert as these female characters, she could be a masochist, and they could be a power couple from some dark mafia romance. While Okumura's imaginations take him to some R18 heaven, Ririsa suggests they do a new Liliel photoshoot with a theme of masochism. While she flashes some hot poses, Okumura employs his newfound knowledge and uses different angles to capture her helplessness. Later, he presents an entire speech about how he'll work harder to take her to the spot of the cosplay queen, and Ririsa admits that even though she previously never thought of competing with anyone, attending the last event with him has made her want more. Just then, the student council president visits their clubroom and informs Okumura that their club will be disbanded as it hasn't qualified for a proper club in 3 whole years, and their room will be given to somebody else. The news sucks the air out of Ririsa's lungs and Okumura suffers from brain damage. However, she reverses it by punching his head once again, which brings him back to his senses. Ririsa worries about what would become of all their merch and suggests donating their R18 manga collection to the school library. Okumura explains to the dumb chick that it's a library, not an adult workout studio, and begins feeling a lot more worthless than he really is upon realizing it's his mistake as the club president. That's when Ririsa steps in with her sausage-throbbing TED Talk as she asks Okumura to stay with her even if their club gets disbanded because she still wants him to clap her peaches someday. This breathes a new life into his cultured self, and he heads straight to the student council room, only to learn that he needs an advisor to save his club. Okumura visits multiple teachers, but all of them turn him down, saying they don't have any time to deal with their corny BS. Surprisingly, one of the teachers, who looks like a JoJo-coded gender-bent alpha, tells him there's a new teacher who might be interested in supervising their club, and this hot mommy turns out to be the same baddie that Ririsa crashed into a few days ago. She listens to Okumura, but eventually turns him down as well, until he notices her up close and realizes she's none other than Mayura, the heavenly queen of cosplay. Seconds before he blurts it out in front of everyone, Mayura grabs him and takes him to a private room where she explains how she'll cut off his nuts and roast them on an open fire if he dares to say her cosplay name again. Okumura, on the other hand, doesn't hear a word she says since her milky melons are pressing against him. Eventually, the tension settles down, and he explains how Ririsa's dream will be crushed if they don't get their room back. But even though Mayura recognizes her from her last cosplay event, she apologizes to him, saying she can't show her face to anyone after betraying the world of cosplay. This sorry excuse doesn't sit right with Okumura, and he threatens to leak her spicy cosplay DVD, which finally brings her to their clubroom. Ririsa greets her in her Liliel costume, and Mayura can't help but let her inner weeb leak as she fangirls over her. However, as soon as she spots her embarrassing dark past, all printed on paper, she grabs the DVD and confiscates it. Ririsa calls it her all-time favorite cosplay album and even goes on about how much she was inspired by Mayura, which makes her quiet for a moment, but she still decides to not help them and leaves. Later, she heads to her office and rolls on the floor like some love-struck teenager, thirsting after Ririsa's banger cosplay, all until she catches Okumura watching her through the window with a disgusted look on his ugly face. Busted, she has no choice but to agree to become their advisor. But she reminds Okumura that their club used to win championships in the past, so compared to the kinky role-playing they are doing these days, they might not make it. Later, Okumura decides to become an overnight manga artist to prove to the school that they are doing something productive. However, his non-existent art skills fail him. Mayura comes to his rescue and suggests that they do some volunteer work by reading comics to grade schoolers. These geniuses take an R-rated Lily L comic to the venue, but unlike them, the uncultured mini swines take zero interest in their MILF mommy. After taking their loser walk home that day, Ririsa decides role-playing is the only way to get their attention, so she wears her safe-for-work Lily L costume to the class the next day. And expectedly, all the little brats turn into simps instantly. That night, Mayura receives a call from her elf friend, Iri, and talks about how she had to give up on her cosplaying career to become a school teacher. She also regrets spending all her youth on a stupid hobby that she can't even share with someone, which leaves her depressed. The next morning, as soon as she reaches the clubroom, she finds both her kinky freaks writing the report. However, just when she thinks they've matured, the self-proclaimed liberals begin yapping about how they've decided not to submit a fake report in which they are flexing charity work. They believe what they are doing isn't something that should be kept hidden, and they insist on writing about attending cosplay events and becoming internet famous. Mayura wonders if they've gone nuts and reminds them how, one day, they'll have to explain these things to their spouses, children, and even workplaces, and that the charm of shaking their cakes won't be as charming once they are her age. She suggests they stick to the original plan and keep their clubroom, but the dumb duo states they'll be attending the upcoming major cosplay event, achieving something big, then brag about it to their principal. This reminds Mayura of days when she was just as clueless and stupid as they are right now, but seeing how determined Ririsa looks moves her to tears. She hugs her, cursing herself for reflecting her own insecurities onto her. However, just when the idiot duo thinks they've tamed her, Mayura's inner demon shows up, and she warns Ririsa that if she doesn't turn out as the best cosplayer in the country, she'll receive her wrath. Meanwhile, a half-and-half psychotic chick buys some anime boyfriend merch and later scares a kid on the train. She is Nagomi, one of the 4 heavenly cosplay queens, who is going to be the center of attention at the upcoming event as she's been sponsored by the event organizers. This baddie with a god complex has an obsession with a 2D boy called Prince Kai, who bears an eerie resemblance to Okimura and hence is the least popular guy in the popular idol anime. On the day of the event, both Okimura and Ririsa suffer from crippling social anxiety, but Mr. Sigma reassures his unofficial girlfriend that her Lily L is the cutest, so she has nothing to worry about. As they later feel embarrassed like some newly married couple, Magino and Ogino enter the venue and the latter mansplains his cosplay math, yapping about how all the crowds will be attracted toward Nagomi, who is cosplaying a brand new character and will be wearing a high-quality Gucci costume for it. While he yaps, the girls head to the changing room, only to stumble upon Nagomi on their way. This wannabe toddler takes a break from her tantrums to focus on Ririsa, whom she recognizes from her viral Lily L cosplay. As she starts critiquing her cosplay, Ririsa asks which character she's playing today, only to learn it's something she isn't even familiar with. The look of disappointment on Ririsa's face pushes her buttons, and she channels her inner Karen, calling her a wannabe fangirl who doesn't respect cosplaying as much as pros like herself do. She explains it's because she loves cosplaying so much that she can become any character that she wants to. But people like Ririsa, who only love the characters they are playing, not the cosplay itself, aren't even worthy of competing with her. Upon leaving, she tells her to stay off her ground when she's posing as her new character, and Ririsa's barely existing will to live leaves with her. At the same time, Ogino explains to Okimura that they'll be claiming the spot right next to the exit of Nagomi's booth, as all her guests will be leaving via that pathway, and they will be able to grab their attention. Besides these fanboys, Mayura ends up attending the event too after lying to herself that she's here to cheer on her students. Meanwhile, as Nagomi gets all dressed up, her sassy sidekick asks why she picked up a fight with Ririsa, only for her to rant about how she reminds her of Mayura, the one who always stole her spotlight and was always better than her, only to give up on her career later. She even admits she bullied Ririsa so she would give up and feel bad about herself, despite realizing that she's talented. Once it's established that she's a certified bitch, her crew laughs in silence while she continues to trash-talk Ririsa. Meanwhile, the poor girl goes into depression and wonders if she's even cut out to be here. Elsewhere, as Magino regroups with Okimura, Nagomi's team passes them by and she catches sight of his hideous face. This instantly sends her to Cloud 9 as she can't believe her beloved Prince Kai has descended from J-pop heaven to cheer on her. It motivates her, and she swears to give her best career performance today in hopes that he'd at least consider clapping her. Okimura and Ogino don't understand why the event isn't starting even after Nagomi's arrival, as her booth is still empty, only to discover she's modeling in the exit area, the one they had planned on claiming. This throws their entire master plan into jeopardy, and Okimura calls Rirasa, wondering what's taking her so long, only to learn that she can't find her skirt this time. They meet up, and she swears she brought it with her this time. Okimura suggests heading to the lost and found desk, but Rirasa stops him, crying and saying she doesn't love cosplaying enough if she keeps forgetting all the important things. Magino reveals she's been feeling this since she became Nagomi's punching bag, which infuriates Okimura, and he barely keeps himself from telling her to quit being such a big drama queen. Instead, he tells her there's nothing wrong with loving only one character and cosplaying them, because if that's the case, why did she even start cosplaying? This gives her the much-needed shut-up call, but Magino stops him, telling him to cool his head. After he leaves, the other two head out for their photoshoot too, leaving Rirasa to think things over. That's when Mayura, who had been eavesdropping on their conversation, steps in, only for Rirasa to begin whining about how she won't be able to have Okimura's babies now since she's made him so angry. Mayura can't believe kids her age are so corny, but she holds it in and tells her about her teacher back in middle school who was the first to accept her passion and love for cosplaying. Rirasa asks if that's why she became a teacher herself, which makes her chuckle because all she wanted was to not stay jobless. She takes this chance to run away for a bit, only to return all dressed up in a racy costume, revealing her identity as Mayura, the cosplay queen. The dumb chick doesn't recognize her at first and goes straight into simp mode, crying over how much she loves her. Mayura hugs her, explaining that the reason why she's role-playing doesn't matter as long as it makes her happy. It moves her to tears, and she finally realizes she's her teacher. At the same time, Okimura tries hard to look for Rirasa's skirt, even going up to different cosplayers and asking if they could check their bags. He eventually finds it and rushes back to Rirasa, finally getting promoted to the #1 simp status, and asks her to think about all the things that she loves: cosplaying, Lily-L, and her Walmart outfits, whenever she puts on her costume, because a real weeb doesn't judge someone for how they show their love. The sneaky loser also takes this chance to grab her hands and remind her that even if she fails, he's still going to be here for her. Not because she's his real-life waifu, but because she's Rirasa, his closest friend. Being friend-zoned moves her to tears, and she thanks Okimura for the long speech before apologizing that she can't do anything now that there's only 15 minutes left of the event. That's when Mayura steps in and tells her to leave the audience to her and focus on getting dressed as quickly as possible. Later, as Nagomi is still posing outside, wondering when she'd be able to go home and imagine spicy scenarios with Prince Kai, Mayura steps outside in her baddie wear, and all the cringe and cultured eyes shift to her, reminding Nagomi of how she's always outsold, outperformed, and outdid her. As this pisses her off, she throws off her skirt, hoping that her non-existent cakes would get her more attention than Mayura. The desperate move works, and while all the simps begin flashing their cameras all around her, she tells her sidekick they'll be doing unpaid overtime today, simply because she's petty. Meanwhile, as Mayura flexes her signature poses and turns heads, she internally bids farewell to her character and passes on her best wishes to the next generation. At the same time, Rirasa puts on her costume and realizes she won't be looking as pretty today thanks to her red eyes, but she still decides to move forward to honor Okimura's wishes. As she heads out, the crowds around Mayura and Nagomi balance out, and the latter finally admits she's nothing but an attention-seeking prick, something that doesn't bother her one bit. Mayura, on the other hand, recalls how Nagomi used to be a pure soul before she sold herself, to the point that she used to make friends with even beginners with trashy costumes at shows. It also makes her wonder why such a talented person is so hard on herself just because she keeps comparing herself to others. Finally coming to terms with her feelings, Mayura takes her leave, just as Rirasa takes on her stage. Her bright costume and smile steals all the glances, makes the insecure little chick go nuts, and she questions how she could come back stronger even after she bullied the daylights out of her. Mayura turns into a simp too on her way back inside the building, just as Rirasa claims her spot and announces she's ready for photos. The very next moment, she starts flashing cute poses, just so she can repay both Mayura and Okimura for their kindness, and the cameramen all begin hoarding around her, photographing her like she's the only thing in the world. As Nagomi's crowd starts decreasing, it reminds her of her tragic backstory and how she used to be an ugly loner with no social life or will to look into the mirror until she decided to imitate characters from anime series. The attention she received as a result got to her head and turned her into a psycho with a god complex, and even now, she finds it hard to put her ego above herself. In a desperate attempt to keep the fanboys glued around her, she puts on a freak show with her personalized pole, all while she cries on the inside. At the same time, Ojino presents his expert yet unnecessary otaku opinion on Ririsa's photoshoot, saying that despite being a newbie, she is able to keep all eyes glued to herself, which not many people can do. He explains it's because she has mastered all the poses of Lily L from the comics and has a lot to offer. On the other hand, despite being overwhelmed by the hundreds of cameras all around her, Ririsa feels happy thanks to the weeb gods who helped her get into role-playing. This Delulu queen also thanks Nagomi for all the bullying she put her through since it only made her realize her talents, and she believes she's finally ready to show off her love for Lily L in front of the entire world. Nagomi, on the other hand, finally calms down and grows out of being a Karen, realizing that the reason why she even picked up on the poor girl was because she felt threatened. Furthermore, she admits she likes cosplaying with her by her side, even more so than she did with Mayura. As all the photographers around Ririsa continue to fight over who would make her famous first, Okimura smiles too and takes a picture of her, moments before Nagomi concludes her shoot and leaves. After a few minutes, the event concludes and Ririsa thanks everyone for satisfying her attention deficiency, only for them to ask for her Instagram handle and whatnot. However, she's socially inept and incapable of all human interaction. She runs back inside without a word, where she finds Okimura and hugs him. Feeling a woman's body against his own for the first time practically paralyzes the virgin, but Ririsa pulls away immediately, crying because she made him go through such a big mess. As he reassures her that it's okay, Mayura eavesdrops like some creep once again, before finally leaving them to their privacy. Once she steps out of the building, Iri finds her and hits her with a final boss punch before throwing an emo tantrum over her sudden disappearance from the cosplay world. She tells her it's okay if she wants to quit cosplaying, but ghosting her friends isn't fair, especially when they two got so close to each other, not as the characters they played, but as human beings. This moves Mayura to tears, and she apologizes to Iri, finally making up for everything. At the same time, Ririsa comes across Nagomi near the changing room and instantly goes into simp mode, losing her single brain cell over how gorgeous her $1 million costume is. Nagomi returns the favor by turning into a JoJo character and realizes it's actually fun to talk with her. They later take a photo together, only for Okimura to interrupt them with his top-tier third-wheeling skills. As soon as Nagomi looks at him, she begins to puke rainbows, making him wonder if he's that ugly, but in reality, she's panicking because he looks like her 2D crush. Although it annoys her that Ririsa gets to be with this hottie all day, she still musters up the courage and asks for his number. Later, as Ririsa makes it into the changing room and has all the other girls simp for her, Nagomi follows after and takes the spot at a corner, whimpering and dying of anxiety on the inside. She feels like everyone hates her, given all the hate tweets she has read over the years. However, when she struggles to undo her zip, a bunch of women step up and help her out, even going as far as to congratulate her on her big day and admitting they've been fans from before she entered her villain arc. These warm conversations heal all her past traumas, and she recovers from her bad girl syndrome. Before leaving, she tells Ririsa she'll wait to see her at the Summer Comic-Con, the biggest cosplay event, and shows her how viral their photo together has gone on the internet. That night, on the train ride back home, Ririsa falls asleep on Okimura's shoulder, and the cultured guy enjoys this once-in-a-lifetime rom-com cliché to the fullest. Even when she wakes up and lifts her head, he pulls her back and tells her to keep making him feel a lot more than just butterflies, which reminds her of the evening. That's when Mayura gets on the same car and overhears her telling Okimura how much she loves him. This forever single weeb falls to her knees, wondering how she couldn't guess it before and if the 2D cheek lover will return her feelings. To her surprise, he tells her he loves her back. However, just before Mayura congratulates them on the plot-defying step,
wait for it,
they frantically tell each other how perfect Lily L's costume was for today, and
comes.
how none of it could have happened if Okimura hadn't been the best photographer ever.
Almost there!
Disappointed to see they are both total rockheads, she sighs and returns home. The next day, she visits the principal's office with the new report from the manga club. But he worries that even if he supports their dreams, he can't put out Ririsa's photograph on the school's board because she might get bullied by her loser classmates. At the same time, some creeps in her class obsess over her viral photos from the event, especially her huge melons, and Mikuri tells her she's in big trouble. Thankfully, this trouble turns out to be detention since she's failing all her classes, which sucks the life out of her. Later, while she's stuck in detention, Mayura visits the clubroom and tells Okimura that their request has been approved and they've been allowed to keep the clubroom. However, both she and the principal have decided to keep their sus activities a secret from the others because not everyone is as cultured as they are and might not understand their groundless obsession with a 2D sketch. She also recalls the Baldy going down memory lane and explaining how he went through something similar back when he still had hair, and that he still hasn't recovered from it. Mayura related that to her experience as a closeted cosplayer too and agreed. Just as she tells Okimura about it, Ririsa enters the club room with the student council president, who tells Okimura they can keep their club room as long as there aren't any R-18 manga or costumes floating around. The king of culture has his life flash before his eyes, 90% of which contains cultured comics, but he swears he'll wipe their slate clean, or at least their club room. As soon as she leaves, the three share a group hug and Ririsa flips into simp mode when she suddenly learns her advisor is none other than Mayura, her favorite plot queen. Just as soon as she gets a nose period, Mikuri walks in and joins their group hug. Later, as the baddie wipes the floor with Okimura in a video game competition, Mikuri finds her questionable cosplay DVD and finds it hard to believe that the ancient queen of role-playing is right in front of her. This pisses off Mayura, who tells them to quit treating her like an old hag, since she's only 5 years older than them and people with that age gap do get married. Mikuri asks if that's the case, would Okimura like to marry Mayura, which makes her suspiciously nervous. He states that she's hot and likes the same things as him, and might even be into some kinky stuff like role-playing too. However, since she's 3D, she's nothing but a red flag. While this depresses the baddie, Mikuri pesters Okimura about his ideal type, and she realizes the poor girl has been in the dreaded friend zone for the last 10 years. Just then, Ririsa asks Mayura to teach her to sew and volunteers her body to science, almost undressing in front of everyone. Mayura barely keeps her plots from getting exposed and Okimura steps out, stating that he's outgrown his days as a cultured freak and entered gentlemanhood. With him gone, Mayura begins measuring Ririsa and Mikuri makes happy noises from getting turned on at the sight of her juicy plots until she gets distracted by a message on her phone. At the same time, Okimura throws his sacred treasure, all the R-18 manga that kept him company during his late-night self-improvement sessions as a teenager, into the trash can. The student body president catches him in action and commends his integrity. His distress is apparent, and she tells him he can replace them when he comes of age, but he lets her know that most were rare collectibles that are likely never to be found again. As he bids that part of his life farewell, the president joins him in a parting prayer. Later, Ogino hits him up and tells him about Mr. Camera, a legendary blogger who writes about up-and-coming cosplayers and rightfully predicts whether they'd be a hit or miss. He's the one who coined the 4 heavenly queens of cosplay, and just last night, he dropped another big bomb with the title of 5 Rising Stars of the New Generation. Ogino reveals that he put Ririsa on the list as the 5th star and begins to celebrate, only for Okimura's narcissist ass to state his Lily L is number 1, and this guy can choke on it. Ogino tells him to get off his high horse and reveals the guy has only put out number 4 and 5 right now, with number 4 being Nonoa, a rising cosplayer known for her cold attitude and 10 for 10 aura. When Ririsa learns about it, she can't believe her flop existence, ranked on an internet list, and Okimura doesn't understand how she doesn't feel jealous of Nonoa. Meanwhile, a shady loner grits her teeth at the screen upon seeing Lily L being ranked as number 5. The next day, Okimura completes his daily boyfriend rituals under the pretense of being the club president, and takes Ririsa to the craft store. The weeb instantly gets down to picking the same old fabric for Lily L's dress, and even when he tries to help her like a hero, he realizes she's a bigger hero than him. This doesn't sit right with his fragile male ego, so he plays the helpful gentleman with a rando girl he sees in the store, only for her to shoot him down with her death glare instead. After this, she runs away, all while Okimura curses his gutter-tier luck. This girl turns out to be the same lonely weeb who was gritting her teeth over Ririsa, so when she finds her in another aisle, she pulls that iconic teeth grit again and whips out a brochure, shoving it at Ririsa. The latter recognizes her as Nonoa and asks if she wants her to come see her at this event, only for Nonoa to point her finger at her, like she's challenging her to a cosplay duel. Although Okimura doesn't understand why a rank 4 would pick a fight with a rank 5, and Ririsa doesn't believe cosplayers should compete with each other, she still takes up the challenge. Meanwhile, Nonoa returns home, tired from a long day of socializing, and praises herself for inviting Ririsa, whom she just wants to become friends with, to the upcoming cosplay event. It turns out that this girl is just socially inept, as she recalls wanting to thank Okimura for his help, only to glare at him. On the day of the event, Nonoa finds Ririsa with Mayura and Okimura, but when she tries to say hi, she ends up glaring at her once again, making her wonder if she hates her. Even when Ririsa tries to talk, this weirdo just runs away, making her wonder what kind of brain damage she suffers from. When she tries her luck again, she finds Ririsa talking with Nagomi and overhears Mayura's name, realizing that somebody who is already friends with the Heavenly Queens wouldn't want to be friends with a nobody like her. Meanwhile, Nagomi tells Ririsa that even though a queen such as herself is cosplaying today, most of the audience is here for Nonoa, who will cosplay a popular character from the franchise that is hosting the event. Ririsa tells her Nonoa has challenged her to a duel, which sucks the light out of poor Nonoa's eyes, who finally realizes she's a disaster at giving social cues. It also reminds her of her tragic backstory and how she turned into a closeted otaku after middle school when everyone kept calling her weird and lonely. Even her mother didn't go easy on her, because of which, she limited herself to her room until one day, she decided to put on a fancy dress and head into the world of bigger freaks than herself. This reminder fills her with motivation, and she swears she'd make her first friend today. Later, as the event begins, Mayura asks Okimura who Ririsa is cosplaying since Lily L has nothing to do with Cinderella Stars, the series that's today's centerfold. Just then, Ririsa shows up as Lily L dressed in a different font, and Okimura boasts how Lily L has a collaboration with the series as a special character. Her cuteness gives Mayura a nosebleed, and even Nonoa begins blushing like a rainbow flag the moment she sees her, just before she walks up to the stage. Later, as the two come face to face, everyone begins to hype them up and wonders if they are having a face-off, all while Nonoa tries her hardest to ask whether she'd like to take a picture with her. Eventually, she gives up from social anxiety and turns around, only for Ririsa to ask her the same question. However, this delusional idiot believes she isn't so special that Ririsa would ask to take pictures together and walks away, making Ririsa appear like a rejected side chick. She later curses her inferiority complex and runs away, recalling how her so-called friends in middle school bullied her for always yapping about manga and anime and never paying attention to her friends or their life issues. However, just when she starts having a panic attack from it, Okimura shows up. Nonoa's innate animal instinct tells her to run away, but Okimura's talk no jutsu holds her back. Role-playing as her unpaid therapist, he asks how she feels about Ririsa, and although her internal monologue screams borderline GL scenarios, her face says otherwise. He tells her it's okay if she doesn't like Ririsa because of the Rising Stars ranking, and he won't judge her because weebs don't judge each other. However, he would like to know why she feels that way toward her. Hearing this, Nonoa realizes she wants to talk, but even if she tries, her voice fails her. Okimura notices too, and removes his hideous face from her line of sight, saying he'd wait until she can talk again. She takes an eternity to talk, but when she does, she thanks him for helping her at the fabric store and leaves, making him wonder why he wasted so much time if she wasn't going to answer the question. Meanwhile, Ririsa has a hard time dealing with Nonoa's rejection, so Mayura pulls her out of the photo session, since her head is clearly not in the game. Just then, Nagomi arrives and realizes she's upset because Nonoa kicked her out of her friend zone, so she gives her a TED talk on how it doesn't matter what others think of her. What matters is what she thinks of others. She asks what she wants to do about Nonoa, become an annoying fangirl, or let go of this one-sided relationship. She obviously chooses the former and says she wants to be her friend. With this, she runs back into the arena. At the same time, Nonoa rushes in too, intending to tell her how much she loves her, only to get derailed by a bunch of fans who begin taking her picture. On the other hand, Ririsa gets stopped by some newbie fans too and almost dies from learning she even has fans. However, she still puts the socially inept disaster over them and manages to get away when Nagomi grabs the spotlight, launching a photoshoot right there. Back to the hunt, she finally finds Nonoa and once again asks if she'd like to take pictures with her, all while the onlooks are taken aback by her bluntness. This time too, Nonoa has a hard time saying yes, so Ririsa sets fire to her self-respect and grabs her hand, dragging her into a photoshoot. She flashes a pose from the Lily L spin-off, and after seeing this, Nonoa flashes her character's pose too, reciting some voodoo spell from the show, as all the photographers immediately get down to business. The two continue to change poses like twin flames, and even Mayura and Okimura can't help but photograph them. Later, she thanks Nonoa for going along with her shenanigans, only to receive her signature death glare that makes her finally catch a hint. As she takes her leave, Okumura asks if she really doesn't want to get her number, to which she says she doesn't want to bother her anymore. As she begins leaving, Nonoa's inferiority complex strikes again, which tells her Ririsa is a social butterfly and doesn't need more friends. However, she hits it back by saying she wants to be friends with Ririsa because she didn't come here just to take photos. As soon as she steps forward to make an attempt to stop her, her traumatized past self tells her to stop because if she goes any further than this, she'll only end up annoying her with her yapping. The depressed ghost also reminds her she'll never even experience the dreaded friend zone because the joke's on her and she'll never even have friends. Nonoa tells her to shut up and steps into the daylight, stopping Ririsa by the wrist and asking if she'll be her friend. The idiot immediately jumps and hugs her, making Nonoa blush, all while Okumura and Mayura celebrate this milestone. Meanwhile, as Mikari poses for a shoot, she calculates how she needs to draw Okumura's attention by cosplaying since neither modeling nor undressing has worked. She recalls talking to her manager about starting this side career and mentally challenges Okumura to get ready for it, without realizing she's a side character in the story. Back at the cosplay arena, as the event ends, Nonoa waits to walk home with Ririsa and smiles to herself. That's when Nagomi strikes again, and in an attempt to sound relevant, even with her irrelevant hair color, tells her to quit trying to pick a fight with Ririsa just because she's prettier than her. She further reveals her charity center offers free drama, so if she wants someone to pick a fight with, she's ready to play the bad guy. Out of nowhere, Nonoa tells her she's got it all wrong and Ririsa pops up, explaining how they've worked things out, leaving the wannabe gangsta embarrassed. However, Okumura makes up for it by thanking her for helping Ririsa, which sends her to Delulu Heaven. Later, as Nonoa finally talks to Ririsa, she reveals she's loved Lily L since childhood too, which makes the pro-weeb very happy. However, even when Nonoa wants to yap about what she does and doesn't like about the show, she can't do it because the ghost from her past keeps reminding her of how emo and disgusting she used to be. It reminds her of the incident from middle school, and instead of acting like the victim, for once, she learns from her mistakes and asks Ririsa what she likes about the character. The latter begins yapping, and it makes Nonoa so happy that she finally realizes her past self wasn't wrong. She was just trying to help her get better at human interaction. As soon as she comes to that realization, the ghost disappears and she feels free for the first time. Meanwhile, a hot blondie with a habit of losing things finds some boys talking about Nonoa and Ririsa's recent collab, and tells them even though she has just started cosplaying, she'll become the next best thing soon. The next day, Nonoa meets up with Ririsa and her self-proclaimed boyfriend after school, and the three visit a local photo studio for a shoot. The owner, Chika, is a certified rainbow flag who Mayura introduced to them, and also knows their JoJo-coded macho teacher, who happens to be a drinking buddy. This tough-looking chick allows the gang to use whatever room they like in her studio, and even offers to become their photographer for the day, revealing she's the one who photographed Mayura's infamous first DVD. However, even after hearing this, Ririsa stays faithful to her hopeless photographer, and the gang heads up to the studio. Okumura waits and scouts out the room while Ririsa and Nonoa get dressed, and the latter spills that she joined Okumura's harem the moment he showed up as her unpaid psychotherapist. Moments later, they come out dressed as Lily L and her side chick Nokil from Okumura's favorite side story, and he can't help but practice the moves he'll use to clap them later. As he photographs them, Nonoa can't help but feel happy to finally be able to have fun with friends. She even roleplays the character perfectly, who is supposed to be Lily L's knight in shining armor. Just as she touches Lily L's face to make it real and Okumura worries the shoot might actually spur some different kinds of feelings between them. The same blonde chick from the cosplay event interrupts them and enters the room against Chika's warnings. The blondie instantly grabs Ririsa's hands and asks her to be her friend, making Nonoa lose her mind for a moment. She dies on the inside wondering how this creature can do it so easily when it literally took her 10 episodes. She even asks if she'd like to take pictures with her right now, and the spineless Ririsa almost says yes until Nonoa steps in and tells her to get lost and quit ruining her hard-earned date. Ririsa steps in and tells Nonoa she might not be as bad as the people from her past, and says they'll eventually find something to bond over since she likes anime and cosplay. Nonoa says in case she hasn't noticed, she's just angry because Ririsa promised to cosplay with her alone, something she's not willing to let some third wheel ruin. Okumura also steps up and tells Ririsa to quit acting like public property and make plans with the new girl, Area, for some other time. Meanwhile, as Nonoa tries to tell the airhead to leave, the Delulu queen starts praising her makeup and good looks. Nonoa hits her back and tells her to go to some modeling agency instead of wasting time on cosplay when she's this gorgeous, making the baddie blush and state it's got to be cosplay or nothing. This is all it takes for Nonoa to change her mind, and she immediately cools down a bit. As she heads into the changing room to get dressed, the rest of them discuss why they don't remember somebody as hot as her if she did visit their Cinderella cosplay event. Just then, she steps out wearing the most underwhelming costume of all time, making everyone wonder who she's kidding. She says she's some character from Princess Channel, which leads Nonoa to pop a fuse and start lecturing her on how far off the mark her weak costume is. Okumura has a hard time believing this chick with an existential crisis had such deep-rooted anger issues all along, all while she rants about how Aria's character actually has red hair in the story. Meanwhile, just as everyone believes Miss Goody Two-Shoes Ririsa will take it easy, she walks up to poor Aria with her Super Saiyan mode activated and thrashes her for disgracing the cosplay gods. She tells her she has a lot of potential that is being wasted due to lack of talent, and the two agree on Ririsa becoming her unpaid cosplay guru for the next few days. While the two go on about their plans, Nonoa feels like a jealous ex trying to feel less like a tossed-out bag of trash. Later, as the girls head to the changing room, Aria asks if she can check their costumes up close. However, while checking out Ririsa's clothes, she can't help but glaze her huge melons, asking if she can touch them. Despite Nonoa's protests, Ririsa lets her do so, and even Nonoa's disagreement dies the moment she offers her the same deal. After feeling the notorious marshmallow softness, she swears she'd never wash her hands again, and later complains about her being flat as a board. Ririsa disagrees and tells her flat is justice, only for Aria to complain about her non-existent muscles. They eventually come to the conclusion that women can never be happy and give up. The next day, Aria visits their club room for an anime watch party under Okumura's weeb guidance, and they start with the Lily L series. While the three of them lose their minds over it, Aria doesn't seem too invested and says she'd rather head out for a walk. Nonoa states if she's happy staying at the bottom of the weeb meter, she can't learn how to cosplay as well as Ririsa, which gets her fired up, and she states she'd do whatever it takes to reach the top of the cosplay world. It doesn't sit right with Nonoa, but she ignores it, and they all move on to the next spin-off. This one hits the spot for Aria, who begins bawling her eyes out over the tragic ending, all while the weeb gang celebrates this achievement. Afterwards, she mentions how this series reminds her of a manga she loved as a kid. From then onwards, they watch a few series every day, then walk home together, buy some food, and try different things. However, even after watching a few hundred series, Aria says she liked the second Lily L spin-off the most, and Ririsa offers to let her take her Lily L spot if she'd like to. Aria turns her down and says she'd rather do Ariel, the third of their four-person squad. Once that is decided, the group moves on to the costume, and Aria insists on making a high-quality handmade one, which Okumura finds fishy. That night, Nonoa stumbles upon a list of 20 artists who didn't make it to the top 5 cosplay list, and among them, she finds a picture of Aria. To make matters worse, she notices she's dressed as a character from years ago, which she couldn't have known about with her zero knowledge of otaku culture. The next day, she brings the matter to Weeb Master Okumura, who recognizes the character as Melia from an old manga series. In fact, it's so old that it was the first manga he ever bought, and loved it so much that he even wrote a fan letter to the author. Suspiciously though, the author replied and told him not to talk about his manga with others if he doesn't want to become a social outcast. He remembers that later, the series received a lot of backlash for being very similar to the Lily L story and got cancelled, which makes it even more fishy why Aria would know about it. As he finds the said comic from his sacred collection, Aria enters the room and recognizes it instantly, saying it's been her favorite comic since childhood. This annoys Nonoa, so she lashes out at her, asking why she isn't being honest with them, and going on and on about becoming a popular cosplayer just to go around and pick something as random as this. She says she doesn't want to overshare because they've been friends for all of about 1 week, only for Nonoa to give a long, hard speech about how the three of them were raised on Naruto and his talk no jutsu, so they believe in oversharing more than anything else. For some reason, she gets inspired by it and reveals that the manga about Melia was written by her dad. As she uncovers her tragic sob story, it turns out that although she loved the comic too much, her father was depressed over its cancellation, which got even worse when her mother lectured him on how he needed to get his life together and get published so they could pay the bills. Eventually, they got divorced, and her father's obsession with his work kept growing. However, none of this hurts her as much as the fact that the last words she and her father exchanged with each other were said in anger as she tried to defend her favorite comic, but he called it a flop, good-for-nothing piece of trash that ruined his career. Since then, she hasn't heard from him. She doesn't even know if he's alive, which is why she's aiming to become a top cosplayer, so when she finally cosplays Melia, he hears about it and they get to meet again. More than anything, Aria says she wants to tell him how much she loves the manga he hated so much and how much it changed her life. This moves Ririsa to tears, and she says she couldn't have asked for a purer reason to cosplay. Nonoa finally puts her trust issues aside too and promises to help her out, only for Ririsa to blow it all up by suggesting they make their debut at the summer Comic-Con. It gives Nonoa social paralysis as she worries about the 500,000 people that'll be there, which only gets worse when she realizes they are lacking one person in their squad to play Miriella. Just then, Mikuri enters the club room, and while Ririsa grins like a mastermind, Aria enters simp mode and tells her how big of a fan she is. Mikuri asks if she'd like an autograph, just to impress Okimura, and after learning about the ongoing ordeal, she states she'll cosplay Miriella if he asks her to. Aria is shocked to realize she has the hots for a loser like him, and as promised, as soon as the said loser asks, she agrees to be their fourth person. Ririsa worries if it'll be okay with her agency, but she reassures her she has their permission. It turns out that this ultra simp worked hard for 2 whole months to convince her team, just so Okimura could see her as a girl, which doesn't sit right with Aria. Either way, they get down to working on the costume, and as Ririsa begins to measure Aria's size, Mikuri wonders why she isn't checking hers too. Ririsa says she already remembers her measurements from 4 months ago, to which she says she may have gained some inches around her chest, only to later realize she'll never grow a pair of melons as big as Ririsa. Later, as they begin stitching, Aria begins to undress mid-process just to see if everything fits, all while blessing Okimura's eyes, who is still in the same room. Everyone else panics and kicks him out, making him curse his bad luck. Once he's out, Aria puts on her shirt and is amazed over how accurate it is compared to the manga, down to the very creases. Afterwards, Aria moves on to the skirt, and after failing one too many times, she and the girls call it a day and decide to head to a nearby restaurant to eat, all while Nonoa feels incredibly excited to check it off her lifelong wish list. At the restaurant, while Mikuri sticks to a diet pasta and Nonoa to some traditional omnirus, Aria goes all out on a family-sized Mexican platter and Ririsa orders a budget combo with endless refills. As the two foodies devour the drink before them, Nonoa wonders when Ririsa would devour her like that too, while Mikuri feels inspired to get a dessert for herself. Once they are done, Nonoa asks if Ririsa will still have time to make cosplay DVDs, along with preparing for their group cosplay for the Comic-Con, only for the dumb chick to reveal she forgot to submit the application for a spot. She further states she's more than happy to just attend it with her friends, all of whom love the same things as her, which rizzes up all the other girls and they start blushing. The next day, Aria works extra hard on her skirt and finally gets it right, after which they all work on the props and weapons. After days of long, tiring hard work, the outfit finally comes to life. However, when Aria returns home that day, she overhears her mother talking to her grandmother on the phone about how her father has been dead for quite a long time. The next day, as she breaks this news to everyone else, Aria breaks down in tears, questioning why her mother didn't tell her about this when she knows she loves her dad a little too much. Okimura asks if she explicitly heard her say his name and if it could be a misunderstanding, but she says it's not likely. Ririsa hugs her to make her feel better, which Nonoa and Mikuri later join, moving Aria to tears of joy. Once refueled, she gets up and tells everyone to get back to working, because showing her love for the things that her dad loved the most would be the best way to pay homage to him. Everyone agrees, and as they get down to their undressing and fit checking, Okimura steps out, wondering why something doesn't add up. That night, after Aria returns home, she copes by cooking way too much food and later asks her mother if she thinks marrying her dad was a mistake. Her mom explains she didn't divorce him over money, which Aria always thought was the reason, but because he lost sight of his goal and her being around to pester him 24/7 did not help. She further admits she loved him with her whole heart back then, but doesn't regret the choices she made since it was for the best back then. Aria smiles, realizing at least there's no bad blood between her parents. The next day, when she reaches the club room, she realizes now that her depression has lifted. Okimura seems to be going through it. Suddenly, he screams mid-research and pulls out a comic page. explaining how a spin-off of the Melia manga has the same ear drawn by hand as the ones drawn throughout the Lily L comics. While Arya wonders if this weirdo also has an ear fetish, he explains that Arya's dad, Kasaki, is an apprentice to the author of the Lily L comics, and that it is highly possible that he's the one who wrote the Lily L side story, one that he loves the most in the world. Just as she questions what that has to do with her, he declares that her father is not dead and has been working on their otaku Bible for the last 10 years. While he gets all emotional about it, Kasaki works in his office on the exact same comic, and Okimura's hunch turns out to be true. When his apprentice asks why he isn't opening his fan mail, this depressed loser states he's just a rip-off who is continuing the work of the original author, a legend, and that the only fan mail he ever received was back when he worked on the Melia comics, the one from Okimura. He also yaps about how the Melia comics were the darkest part of his history, but even so, he regrets wallowing in his misery instead of paying attention to his wife and daughter, who needed it the most. Back in the clubroom, Arya reveals she already knew it as she asked her mother about it yesterday and realized she took the call out of context. Ririsa tells Okimura that even though he sounds to be reaching, she'll believe him as he's the biggest Lily L simp in the whole world. While he gets all emo about it again, Ririsa tells Arya they need to finish their costumes and make them stand out at the event so that Kasaki hears about it and maybe ends up visiting her. Mayura states it's harder to go viral during the Comic-Con because it's the biggest event of the year and most professional photographers who attend it are mostly there for specific cosplayers, not just some random wannabes. She suggests that they visit the event's third day so that the real cosplay queens are done with it, but Arya says she can only go on the first 2 days because of a scheduled family trip. Sighing, she states the best they can do then is to make a prior announcement, and all the beggars beg Mikari to do it, given her huge fan following. However, since she's extra, she doesn't do it on Twitter and instead talks about it on live television. Once this goes viral, Kasaki's sidekick excitedly tells him how a top model will be cosplaying characters from his comic, including Ariel, who is his original character. He suggests that they visit the event and Kasaki eventually asks for some time to think it over. Meanwhile, after Okimura's weeb meter approves of Arya's costume, he has an internal monologue about how he will show his love for Kasaki's comics in front of the whole world so he no longer has anything to regret. The next day, as they take the train to head to the event, some fellow weebs get jealous of Okimura's hot girl harem, only to feel relieved when they realize he is more into 2D chicks. As soon as they reach the venue, summer heat hits them hard and Okimura shows off his bag of summer essentials full of water, cooling pads, and even an extra cap which he lends to Arya. He finds Agino at the entrance, along with Magino, and he tells Okimura how much buzz their collaboration with Mikari has caused in the pop world. He further reveals that the top 3 rising stars of the Rising Star list were posted just yesterday, number 2 and 3 of which are a pair of high-in-demand twins, Lime and Lemon. They'll be cosplaying maid characters from a very popular new series, which will get them attention from those who have a kink for twins and also from those with maid fetishes. Later, as the girls head to the changing room, they start freaking out over the huge number of cosplayers and question how in the world will they outshine them all. Meanwhile, our Walmart mother Teresa, Ririsa states she doesn't want to compete with them, but fangirl over all of their cute outfits. Arya explains they can just see them like athletes and keep a friendly attitude, but still try to be better than them. Just then, Ririsa notices a novice panicking over something and realizes she has forgotten her wig cap, just like she did. She returns the favor by giving her an extra one and later swears she'll crush everyone today. Once dressed, as soon as they all show up before Okimura, he has a bigger nose period than he usually does, and he outright dies. Once resurrected, he yaps about his exaggerated sob story to Ririsa, and how his life ended when Lily L's first manga series came to an end. He spent his days in endless despair until the side story began printing, which is why he needs to thank Kasaki, especially today. He asks Ririsa to give her career best today, and they all share a cringe cheer before heading out. They meet Nagomi on their way, who banters with Mayura as usual, until everyone catches sight of one of the twins. Surprisingly, she talks to Okimura and asks him to take something that he forgot to her twin brother in the male changing room, which takes everyone who thought they were both girls by surprise. Okimura, on the other hand, finds his lifelong dream coming true as he witnesses a cross-dressing femboy for the first time and begins feeling butterflies in his cucumber. This gender trap is Lemon, and he later apologizes to Okimura for potentially grossing him out. The king of culture reassures him he's perfect and no one could have pulled his character as well as he did, which makes him blush, all while Mikari questions whether he even cares about genders anymore. The twins take their leave after connecting with Ririsa, and the gang heads to the rooftop to show off their masterpiece. Although they instantly get the audience's attention, the crowd begins dispersing after only a few shots, and Okimura overhears them talking about how they can't get a good picture no matter how hard they try. Putting on his Sherlock pants, he investigates this matter and discovers it's because their poses aren't as coordinated as the freaky twins. On top of it all, despite Lily-L's greatest strength being her arsenal of unlimited poses, she can't use it with newbies who can't learn the said poses overnight, which is ruining their entire shoot. To make matters even worse, the scorching summer heat takes the better of them, and Mayura has no choice but to take a break for them. While they are on a break, it turns out that Ririsa also realizes what the problem is, and when Nonoa asks her about what poses she should do, she explains that Aria and Mikari won't be able to keep up with them, as they aren't jobless enough to memorize trashy comics like her. As the socially inept chick begins to worry, Ririsa flexes a useless speech about how she'll try hard, only for Mikari to ask how so when she's not the only one doing the shoot. To change the topic, Nonoa asks if Ririsa has had water, to which she says she can't drink from a regular water bottle because Lily-L wouldn't and she's in character. While the other two begin berating her, Aria says they should let her do what she wants to, but since she wants to be stiff about not breaking character, she would do too and not drink a sip of water either. Ririsa argues that she knows she is a crackhead on the inside, something that they don't need to copy, only for Aria to tell her to quit being a selfish prick. Just then, Okimura steps in with his weed treasure and hands her the ultra-rare Lily-L bottle, which she immediately uses. Afterwards, as they resume the photoshoot, Okimura uses his cap to guide their gaze and their photos begin appearing a bit better. However, just when things start looking a bit brighter, Ririsa's cosplay gods abandon her and she faints from the heat. Mayura worries about her health and decides to stop the shoot at once. Nonoa picks her up, showing off her non-existent muscles, and takes her to the infirmary, exactly how Nokio would do. The nurse tells Ririsa to take the day off so as they return home, she feels like a total party pooper. She apologizes for messing everything up, making Mikari wonder how getting a heat stroke is her fault. However, since she likes to make everything about herself, Ririsa tells them all to relax and promises to make things better for day 2. This hits a nerve, and Nonoa finally gets tired of her covert narcissism. She grabs her by the collar and tells her to quit acting like she's the most important person in the room while the rest of them are side characters. As Ririsa begins crying, she tells her to rely on her friends instead of doing everything by herself, which the other two also agree with. From there, the clown group heads somewhere to practice poses, and with Okimura's help, they learn over 100 of them. Just then, Nonoa's phone begins buzzing, and they realize her carrying Lily-L has gone crazy viral on the internet, making people ask about their cosplay for tomorrow. As they get drowned in all that love, they swear to bring on their best performance tomorrow and share their cringe cheer once again. The next day, they end up becoming the biggest stars of the day, even bigger than the twins, and Okimura can't help but feel proud of his self-proclaimed girlfriend. When they take a break later, Aria thanks Lily-L for bringing her dad's dream to life, and she thanks them all for giving her the much-needed pep talk. Aria recalls asking her mother for the 100th time if her father is alive, only for her to remind her that he is and has been paying child support ever since he left. She informs her how he's writing comics these days, and her mother asks her to tell him something for her sake if she ever gets to meet with him. At the same time, Kasaki's sidekick shows him a picture of the girl's viral cosplay with Ariel in it, and although he doesn't take it seriously at first, he quickly loses his mind upon recognizing Aria. He asks the boy if he can make it to the Comiket as soon as possible and heads out, without even washing his hands or changing his clothes. On his way, he curses his gutter tier luck and wonders if it's some divine punishment that his daughter is playing a character he secretly created. And as soon as he sees her in person, he can't help but tear up. He recalls knowing full well that writing comics was ruining his family life, and yet he kept going because he needed to win the Father of the Year award. He feels like a monster for never looking back at or owning the side story he wrote, and he realizes he can't show his pitiful face to Aria after all these years. As soon as he walks away, Aria recognizes his back and Okimura runs after him to stall. Meanwhile, she runs back to the changing room with Ririsa to wear the Melia costume that they prepared in secret, just for this moment. As soon as Okimura stops Kasaki, He assumes it's his editor and begs for some extra time, only to realize it's just some random kid. Being the cringe weeb that he is, he immediately asks him to sign his Lily L hat, stating that he's the biggest Lily L simp on planet Earth, maybe even on Mars. Kisaki asks if he'd rather the original creator do it, but Okumura insists it's the side story he wrote that changed his life, so he'd rather him do it instead. He still insists on calling himself a fake, which pisses off Okumura, who tells him to quit belittling himself. Once the autograph is done, he asks him to draw him a Lily L sketch too, just so he can buy more time, and later yells that he loves his Melia comics too, making him question how he even knows about that flop crap. Okumura instantly enters simp mode and tells him how it was his first comic ever and how instantly he fell in love with it, only for the depressed idiot to call it a dark stain on his life that shouldn't have existed in the first place. It finally blows Okumura's weeb fuse, so he tells him to quit assuming things for himself because he doesn't get to decide how he feels towards something. He also reminds him that an author's work doesn't belong to him alone the moment he puts it out for the world, so he should just shut his trap and let him love Melia in peace. Kisaki realizes he's the same lonely fanboy who wrote him that fan letter years ago, and he begins to cry upon hearing how both the side story and his first comic have changed his entire life, so he doesn't get to decide what he should feel about it. Right then, Aria shows up in her Melia costume and Kisaki's lifelong trauma begins healing. She tells Okumura she'll take over the therapy session from here on, and while Kisaki kneels before her and apologizes for not being the best dad in the world, she tells him she's trying to show her love for his work by showing off this costume that she's worked so hard on. She hugs him and thanks him for bringing her into this world, moving him to even more tears, finally resolving her daddy issues and his family problems. Later, as Lily L begins yapping to him about how much she loves Lily L, he sketches a portrait for her and suggests that she gets a job at Yapping and Company because she has a lot of potential for it. He thanks them for loving and celebrating his story and promises to continue working on it for their sake until he gets fired from his job again. As he bids his farewell to Aria, he notices she's still wearing the hairpin he gifted her, and Aria recalls how this pin is what brought her parents together after they fought once. She also tells him her mother's message, which says she needs to be the first one he shows his new work to, if he ever works on something new again, which reminds him of their teenage years and how they started dating and got married after she saw his pencil sketches one day. It makes him cry once again, and he swears he'll make things alright again. The next day, the gang heads to the Comic-Con again to have fun on the third day, and Okumura recalls Mayura telling them how she has something important to attend to so she won't be there, but even if she isn't there, there's a cosplayer she wants them to go check. Even Aria accompanies them since her mother decided to postpone their trip to meet with Kisaki. The moment she sees him, she calls him an old hag, but the two reconcile, making Aria immensely happy. The group heads to Magino's stand and Rarissa buys her cosplay DVD. The hot mommy, on the other hand, tells her she'd love to buy her DVD too whenever she plans on selling one. They also meet with the elf MILF Iri later, only to find Mayura serving as her unpaid salesperson. She blushes and says she's out on a date, and tells them the cosplayer she advised them about is right in front of them. As soon as the gang heads to the stand, they feel disappointed to see an ugly airhead selling the DVD. However, the girl says she's not the real deal, and the cosplay legend that they are here for is up on the roof right now. The losers quickly get there, only to be thrown into a world of surprise upon seeing an extremely hot chick flashing an action fantasy character. Upon seeing her, Rarissa throws a tantrum about how her waist isn't snatched enough for Lily L, nor are her melons juicy enough, unlike this cosplay queen who is accurate down to the last pound. Everyone, including Aria, promises to continue supporting her. She also shows them a picture of their parents having a date together at their first ever dating spot and says she couldn't have done it without Okumura's help. To thank him, she hugs him, moving Mikari to tears of jealousy, all while the Sigma male doesn't even budge. On the fourth day of the event, only Rarissa and Okumura turn up, and the lonely loser gets rizzed up by Rarissa's cute outfit. It makes him nervous that they might be on a date, and Rarissa wonders why her heart beats so fast when she's around him. She wonders if it's because he's just a friend, being the dumb idiot that she is, but puts it aside and the two head to the event. As soon as they get there, she puts on her Lily L outfit and tells Okumura she'll be weirding him out the entire day by walking around in it. He worries people might think they are dating, so she hands him an Ashford outfit, the male lead in Lily L's story, and says they can pretend to be a fictional couple. Immediately, as he comes out of the changing room, she begins simping over how cool he looks, and they head to a few stalls to buy some comics and DVDs. However, seeing them in character, a lot of people refuse to take their money, which relieves Okimura as this whole event has been taxing his wallet rather heavily. Once they've shopped, Okimura tells Ririsa that it's commendable how she can make people happy by playing dress-up, the people who are always worried about something or busy working on something. He pats her head, and she tells him none of it would have been possible if he hadn't been weeb enough to accept her weird kinks. He pats her head again, which gives the poor girl a heart attack, and she wonders if it's because she likes Ashford or him. Just then, another Lily L passes them by and introduces herself as Zioyu, a Chinese cosplayer who loves Lily L. Ririsa instantly gets along with her, and the trio decides to spend some time together, and even pose for photos. However, during the photoshoot, as Zioyu tries to grab Okimura's arm or his attention, Ririsa can't help but feel jealous, so much that even a dense blockhead like him notices. Later, as Zioyu takes a picture with him on her phone, Lily L becomes explicit about her jealousy and tells him it looks like he wants to clap anyone just as long as they are dressed up as Lily L. The loser tells her even though he's a world-class simp and loves Lily L in all shapes, sizes, and forms, her Lily L is his favorite and is the only one for him. This makes the two of them blush like crazy, and Zioyu notices, reassuring Ririsa she isn't here to steal her boyfriend. She tells her they are not dating, making her feel sorry for their non-existent brain cells. She bids farewell to them afterwards and even takes a picture of them together. Later, on their way back, Okimura reminds himself he isn't into 3D girls, but the more he looks at Ririsa, the more his resolve crumbles. The next day, the gang heads to the beach with the aim to shoot some photos for Ririsa's cosplay DVD. While Mikuri loses her senses over sitting next to Okimura, Aria feels confused about what's so good about an ugly loser like him. When they get there, Okimura recalls Mayura lecturing him on how his photography sucks because he focuses on capturing people based on what's closer to the 2D source material, instead of thinking of them as humans. She explains that the top cosplayer who they saw the day before yesterday is essentially 2.5 dimensional, which is where cosplay is supposed to exist. According to her, unless the real person in the costume doesn't leak through the character, he can never get photos as good as the top photographers. As he distractedly worries about this, Mikuri shows up in her swimsuit and asks what he thinks about her. The 2D Sigma says it's good, all while he looks like he'd rather clap a wood log than do her. Okimura notices she's disappointed, so he fakes his enthusiasm and calls her pretty, making the certified simp pass out. The rest of the girls show up then, and Aria asks what he thinks about her swimsuit. He says it matches her bright personality, which makes her blush and realize she might be developing feelings for him. Mayura asks for his expert cultured opinion on her swimsuit too, but he completely ignores her, saying he isn't into old hags like her. Moments before she deletes him from the Earth's surface, Ririsa shows up to save the day, dressed up in Lily L's beach costume. This makes the biggest blood waterfall leak through Okimura's nose, and even Mayura ends up dying of blood loss, all while she tells her they will do the photoshoot tomorrow, not today. Ririsa immediately runs back inside and comes out without a wig, and Okimura realizes that even without looking like Lily L, Ririsa makes his heart skip a beat for some reason. Soon enough, the gang jumps into the ocean and starts having fun, including Nonoa, who initially didn't want to get wet. They ask Okimura to join in too, and as soon as he takes off his shirt, the chicks begin to drool over his hard rock muscles. He claims it's an otaku's job to perform Satama's daily routine as a ritual, but not even Ririsa agrees. Later, Nonoa thanks Okimura for being able to reach out to her even when no one wanted to, and smiles at him, making him think, for once, that she's pretty. He also thinks if he captured it on camera, it would turn out perfect, making him realize he just broke the first wall between the 2- and 3-dimensional worlds. At night, the gang decides to do a test of courage, and Mikuri daydreams about how perfect it'll be for her to grab Okimura using this excuse. However, her plans get wrecked when Aria becomes his partner. As they pass through a graveyard, some jobless old hags try to scare them with ghost props, and Aria's not-so-gangster existence begins to scream and yell. Okimura holds her hand and gets her through the forest, staying solid even when her huge plot cannons press against his chest. After them, Mikuri and Nonoa follow suit, and the latter reassures her she can exercise low-tier spirits if they decide to show themselves, rizzing her up. Mayura and Ririsa come in at the end and are not freaked out by the ghosts in the least. In fact, Ririsa tries to catch the spirits in a fish net, just so she can experiment on them. Meanwhile, Aria's legs turn to jelly when she sees a ghost again, and she asks why Okimura isn't scared. He says it's because he's so hideous, ghosts should be scared of him instead, making her blush at his alpha-coded aura. He even offers to give her a piggyback ride, and although she begins to feel things as soon as her soft marshmallows touch his back, the Sigma feels nothing. This frustrates her, and she later asks him why he can't feel interested in 3D women. He says it's because of his mommy issues and how his Unlefan's mom left him when he was a kid, making Aria remind her none of it was his fault, and that there are girls out there who wouldn't betray the man they love, including her. It moves him to tears upon hearing someone might feel that way for him someday, and he thanks the pick-me for opening his heart. The next day, they begin the cosplay photoshoot, and despite trying way too hard, Okimura fails to grab the 2.5-dimensional concept until he's about to take a picture of Lily-L, and a jealous Mikari photobombs her, pouting her lips. He notices how the real Mikari is leaking through the character, but he still fails to replicate the same picture again. Later, as he's racking up his only brain cell over this, Mikari supports him by lending him her shoulder, and he falls asleep by her side. He wakes up after a few hours to see that she's still here, and as she blushes and tells him she can stay here forever if he wants, he notices her fiddling around with her hair and finally catches a glimpse of the real person behind the costume. Just then, Ririsa and the girls get in their way by yapping about some funny story, and Mikari notices the way he looks at Ririsa, which frustrates her. In a fit of rage, she leaves the room and stands on the balcony, hoping that the beach air would cool her head, only for the source of her headache to turn up there too, asking what is bothering her. She tells her to get lost, but when she insists on standing there, she outright tells her she loves Okimura, which she has done for about 10 years. Initially, Ririsa's stupid ass congratulates her, but quickly realizes she's acting like an awful third wheel by spending so much time with Okimura and not respecting Mikari's feelings. As soon as she begins panicking over that, Mikari realizes she has made a mistake, and if she really does distance herself from Okimura, he will lose the single best friend he has made in ages. She tells her to forget about it, only for Ririsa to ask her what she likes about him, to which she begins yapping about how awful he is, from his unhealthy obsession with R18 figurines to his nauseating love for a cartoon on paper. However, she says it is exactly what she loves about him and asks Ririsa what she feels toward him. The Weeb Pro Max says she sees him like a manga character, kind of how he sees Lily-L, but since his love for Lily-L exists and is real, her love for him is real too. She believes he's the reason why she is where she is, and she definitely does love him, yet still, she isn't sure if it's romantic love or just friendship. Mikari sighs at how stupid she is, but tells her she can pursue a relationship with Okimura if it ever comes to it, without worrying about her or her feelings. Meanwhile, it turns out that Okimura has overheard this entire conversation. It takes him by surprise, and he has a panic attack over what he would do if Mikari proposes to him or asks him to be her boyfriend. He's sure he doesn't see her that way, but if he rejects her, it would ruin his friendship, the club, and also Ririsa's dream, something that he can't let happen. Just then, Mayura shows up, revealing that she also overheard them, and she pep talks to him about how love in reality isn't like what they see in comics. In fiction, a love confession only seems to finally connect two people who already had feelings for each other, but in reality, one can't be sure about what the other person feels. She also reassures him that it's okay for people to start relationships even when they are unsure of their feelings, and even if they date the other person because they like them. The seemingly dumb guy surprisingly understands her, and gets the concept even better when she explains that Lily-L, whose loyalty he loves so much, doesn't love Ashford because she's an angel, but because she wants to love him and be faithful to him. He realizes he couldn't understand it before because instead of assuming he sees 3D people as accessories, he has never seen himself as a real person in his own life. And he finally understands why Mikari's genuine expression from before or Nanoa's real smile stung his heart. With this newfound revelation and resolve, he thanks Mayura and heads out to shoot Ririsa again. But this time, he asks her to let her inner person show through the character's costume. She does exactly that and imagine Lily-L's love for Ashford, reflecting that onto her own feelings for Okimura. Her hauntingly beautiful expression makes his heart skip a beat, and he immediately captures it, all while she worries that she surely has caught real feelings for him despite swearing that she never will. Mayura later praises him for finally understanding his assignment and tells him it's okay to let people help him and see the real him, just like he loves to help others and understand their feelings. Once the trip is over, the gang regroups in the club room and watches a Lily L special, all while cheering for her out loud. Thanks for watching until the very end. You are a true otaku. To mess with the fake fans, type RIP Lily L in the comments. Like, subscribe, and check out another one of our exciting videos on the screen. Stay awesome, stay Anageek.